Okay, so by now you should have answered those two questions in the discussion post. So we're going to answer them. So use the word area in a sentence. So what I put behind here is just one example of a sentence you could have written. So an example is, I need to cover the entire area of the wall with paint. That is one example. What does the word area mean? So area is how much space is on the inside of a shape. So here we have a rectangle. The area is how much is on the inside, how much space is on the inside of that rectangle. And that's what we're going to calculate today using rectangles, squares, and triangles. So we'll find the area of rectangles, squares, and triangles. Okay, so area of quadrilaterals. Remember, quadrilaterals have four sides. So that can be a square, a rectangle, or something that looks like this, which is called a parallelogram. Okay, and to find the area of a quadrilateral, it's base times, this is multiplication, base times height. The base is the bottom of a shape, and the height is how tall something is. Okay, so when we're looking at these three shapes, the base and height of these quadrilaterals, so this is a square, our base is the bottom, okay, and the height is how tall something is. When you talk about height and how tall something is, like if you were to measure yourself, you would be standing straight up and down. So the height has to be straight up and down. It can never be a slanted line, okay? Height is never a slanted line. That is something that's super important for you to remember. Never a slanted line. So when we're looking at this rectangle, the base is the bottom, and our height is that straight up and down line. Okay? For this parallelogram, base is still the bottom, but our height is not this. It cannot be a slanted line. It has to be something that's straight up and down. And if we don't see a line that's straight up and down, we need to go from the highest point of the shape all the way down. We need to measure that. So this is the height from here straight down. Sometimes you might also see it on the inside. It'll measure from the highest point, which is here, how tall it is, all the way down to where the base is. That's your height. It is never the slanted line, okay? It can never be these, okay? If you think about it, when you go to the doctors and you are going to measure your height, they don't ask you to lay down to measure your height. They ask you to stand straight up and down, straight, as tall and as high as you possibly can. They don't ask you to lay slanted. It's straight up and down, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the area of each of the following quadrilaterals. So remember, area is base times height, okay? So here, when we're looking at this parallelogram, we're going to take the base, which is the bottom, times the height. Remember, it cannot be slanted, so it cannot be that. It has to be straight up and down. So what we're going to do, this is our height, we're going to multiply 2.5 times 1.8. Okay, we're going to do that in our calculator. So if I do that in my calculator, and remember your calculator can be your phone, it can be an actual calculator. So if I do 2.5 times 1.8, my answer is 4.5. And when we put our units, remember we need to say 4.5 what? Meters. And when you're calculating the area, it's squared. which is the exponent of 2. That needs to be there every single time, because when you're calculating the area, like if we went back to this slide, you're seeing how many squares take up the shape. Okay, how many squares fill the shape? So here we have 4.5 meters squared. We can also say 4.5 or 4 and 5/10 square meters. Okay? Down here, remember that exponent always has to be 2. Same deal, we do base, which is the bottom, times the height, which is that straight up and down side. Okay, we don't need these are extra. So we do base, remember area is base times height. We take the base, which is 25, times the height, which is 20. And when I multiply that in my calculator, 25 times 20, I get 500 meters squared. We need that exponent every single time. Okay, that is our answer there. So when we're finding the area of quadrilaterals, so that's square, rectangle, or parallelogram, we do base times height, the bottom times the straight up and down side. Remember, not the slanted sides.